sounds bad. This is on Housing Wire. Don't know how reputable, but we'll do some research. But let's see what the journalism is looking like, because you can't believe anything these days. Everything on the internet is a damn lie. You got to read like 10 different articles and get the right sense of everything, and they're all lying probably. All right. After 2 weeks of testimony, the Kansas City jury found the National Association of Realtors, Home Services, and Keller Williams guilty of collusion. All right. A Kansas City jury has found. Oh, okay. We just read that. They're guilty of colluding to inflate or maintain high commission rates through National Association of Realtors, Clear. Oh my God, cooperation rule in the Sitzer Burnett Buyer Broker Commission lawsuit. I'm going to have to explain a lot of things, but hold on. Let me. Emily said, to wrap up the previous thing, better hope they are allocating properly to reserves, because something breaks or needs repaired and there isn't enough money in reserves to cover it, they will special assess for it, which basically means they could charge you guys more money above your agreed HOA dues to fix stuff if they don't have enough money. Many people don't realize that then are paying mortgage payment, HOA fee, and special assessment, which can really hurt some people's pockets. Yes. So they can make you pay even more money if they mismanage the community. So if they mess up, they'll just take more of your money. It's fine. It's fine. No problem. Anyway, back to this groundbreaking case. And if you notice, it was October 31st. So yesterday this was written. Sorry, I'm stuffy. The jury reached its verdict after a little over 2 weeks of testimony from the plaintiffs and defendants. During their testimony, the home seller plaintiffs, so it was home sellers, and their lead attorney, Michael Ketchmark, argued that despite the defendants having antitrust rules and regulations in place, the trade group and corporate brokerages knowingly violated their own rules in order to maintain high commission rates. Since I've been in real estate, this has been a touchy subject about commissions, because when you go through real estate school, they do tell you commissions are always negotiable. And when you go to your brokerage, commissions are always negotiable. And in the contract, commissions are always negotiable. But they do a lot of tricks and things to try to make sure that they're getting around 6%. Judge Stephen Buch, who is overseeing the suit, still needs to issue his final judgment on the case before the verdict is final. He has wide latitude in issuing injunctive relief, so we don't know what's going to happen yet. But the judge can do whatever, he has a wide breadth of options. In the worst case scenario for the defendants, which is the National Association of Realtors, I'll refer to them as NAR, and Keller Williams and some other brokerages. I'm sorry, names can't do it. Could ban the cooperative compensation rule nationally on the multiple listing services, which would prevent listing agents and home sellers from predetermining buyer agent commission rates. Listing agents would also be prohibited from sharing commissions with buyer agents, and buyer agent commission rates would not be published in the MLS. This is what got my attention. Okay. What this is essentially saying is, and this is worst case, this is like the most damaging, impactful thing that the judge could rule, is that, let me read it again. They could ban the cooperative compensation rule nationally on the MLS services, which is how where all the real estate information comes from, and is the agreement between all agents to essentially work together. They could prevent listing agent. A listing agent is the person selling or putting the house for sale for someone that wants to sell their house. Now, a listing agent makes an agreement with the seller. I'm going to list your house under these terms and conditions, and here's the commission, etc., etc. Okay? Let me know if you guys are following, not following. You're going to learn a lot about the nuance of real estate if you watch this, though. And this is really important. It's a good teaching moment to show you how real estate works and how things happen behind the scenes that you don't know about as a customer or a client, and how maybe it might change and it might be good or bad. And I'm going to give what I think about it in real time because I'm just processing this stuff as well. Okay, so they could ban. So could ban cooperative conversation rule nationally on the MLS, which would prevent listing agents and home sellers from predetermining buyer agent commission rates. Let me read some more and I'll explain what that means. Listing agents would also be prohibited from sharing commissions with buyer agents, and buyer agent commission rates would not be published in the MLS. Okay, so what this means when you want to sell your house, say you want to hire me to sell your house right now. What I'm going to do, or one of my agents is going to do, is present you a listing agreement, which gives us the right to list the property in the multiple listing service, or MLS. Our MLS in our local region is called Bright. There's different organizations that run different MLSs, which is kind of annoying, to be honest. So we're going to get the right to publish the property in the MLS. Us as realtors and real estate agents, or anyone signed with the MLS, has to sign an agreement to follow certain rules for properties to go on to the MLS. One of those rules or things that you do is list what you would pay the cooperating agent. And what that means is, when I list your house for sale, every agent part of that multiple listing service can see that property and has access to request showings and be able to do whatever they need to do to show their client the property. So they might have an agreement with the buyer to work with the buyer and help the buyer find a property. Okay. So I represent the seller, and the other agent, the cooperating agent, either through the MLS represents the seller, or generally now they would be a buyer agent if they have an agreement with the buyer. So the reason, but right now what's happening is buyer agents do not have generally a commission agreement with the buyer. They sometimes it depends on the language in the buyer agency agreement, but usually it says that the buyer's agent will accept the commission offered in the cooperating commission. The cooperating commission rule that is listed from the seller. So, for example, when I sign a deal with Mr. Seller, it will include how much of the commission we're offering to the buyer side. So, just for example, if the commission was 6%, we could choose whatever number we want, but we're going to list the property and offer the other agent who brings the buyer 3%. So that means that the listing agent would get 3%, and the buyer's agent, the incentive for them to take their qualified buyer to look at our property is that if they close on the property, they're going to get 3%. Okay. You could offer them 2.5%, you could offer them 2%, but that is in the MLS. So I'll show you guys actually what that looks like. Let's get some inside baseball here. All right. So let me log in. I don't want you seeing all my info, but I'll show you on a property. Let's just look for a house. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in the multiple listing service as far as a property. Why is this taking me so long to find something? Sorry, everyone. Wow, there's a lot of houses for sale here. Okay. Let me share my screen here. All right. So this is a property that is in the multiple listing service, and this is what it looks like, right? So there's the address. It's for $400,000. And this is what I'm saying. The MLS will provide you a lot of information about the property. There are agent notes. I don't want to get into all that kind of stuff, but what you will see is what they are offering as a commission compensation. This is for a cooperating broker. They're offering 2.5% of the of the gross sales price to any buyer agent that brings a buyer, and they're doing this stupid minus 150, which they really need to stop doing. So that's why. Okay, so this is the inside baseball part. Imagine if they were only offering 1%. You, as an agent, now they're getting paid less. So say there's 5 properties that me as a buyer's agent, now in this scenario, was going to, that a client wanted to see. But one of those properties was offering 3%, and the other property was offering 1% in the cooperating agreement. Which one do you think the buyer's agent wants them to buy, their client? The one where they get 3%. And this is something that agents are not going to tell you what they're getting paid when they look at that cooperating buyer agreement or commission agreement. So sometimes things can get weird because if you're dealing with someone that's a little less ethical, or they need to pay their bills, they might urge their client to buy the property that has a higher commission listed, which could cause, and I think that's part of the case here, is that if the commission is lower, people are not going to want to look or encourage their clients to look at those properties. Now you can't out and right not show the property, but you could be like, what an agent could do is trash the property, not physically trash the property, but they could be like, are you sure about these carpets? Looks like it has a stain here. Oh, the paint. It's I don't know. They shouldn't really have flat paint here. It should be at least eggshell. Oh, well, aren't you concerned about the pool? Like, this is things that an agent can do if he or she wants to persuade you to a different property that the commission is higher. And this is really nasty work. And that's why integrity is really important in this business, because this happens to clients every day. They just don't know. And it can happen on the seller side as well. The way that it happens on the seller side, and this is getting away from the case a little bit, but if you can get the buyer and the seller together yourself, now you get to keep both sides of the commission, so you get paid more. So if you have a buyer and there's another offer that's going against your offer, but you could get paid double if they take your buyer, what do you think some people are going to do? They're going, especially if the offers are close, they might encourage the seller to take the offer where they get paid more. That is nasty and is unethical, and no one should do that. But I see it happen every day, and the client doesn't know. And that's a problem. So what they're proposing is to take that percentage out of the cooperating agreement so that it's not in the MLS, which would mean that anytime someone wanted to show a piece of real estate that's listed on the MLS, the first thing they're going to ask you is, what's the commission that you're offering for me to show this property? So if you could imagine, if you want to look at 10 properties, your agent is going to have to ask each one of them people to make sure that you're offering a reasonable commission. Because if they're saying, hey, I'll give you $1, which there's agents that do that, but at least it's listed so you don't have to ask. You'd have to ask now, which would create inefficiency in the market. And I don't think it solves the problem per se. The other thing that could happen, and this makes sense in certain markets because I was considering doing this, is the buyer the agent that works with the buyer, and this might make sense, has to come to some kind of agreement to pay that buyer's agent. Either it's up front or at closing, which maybe you roll it into the closing costs of purchasing the house or something like that. But agents don't work for free. And if it's a commission, they need to know what the commission is before they start working. So if you take away the listing to show what the buyer's agent would get paid, they're going to have to do something to figure that out. Now, does this help not like because what they're trying to do is stop like making a standard commission, and it should be negotiable. It should be a market rate. Does this ruling do that? I'm not sure. So let's continue to read a little bit. All right. In response to this verdict, Mantle Williams, a spokesperson for National Association of Realtors, said the trade group will be appealing the jury's verdict, of course, and will also ask the court to reduce damages. We stand by the fact that the National Association of Realtors guidance for local MLS broker marketplaces ensures consumers get comprehensive, equitable, transparent, and reliable home information, and that brokerages of any size, service, or pricing model get a fair shot at competing. This is important because housing has a history of discrimination, and one of the ways that they would discriminate is you could not get the information before the internet, before this was public. You would have to go in a realtor office, and only the realtors had the books of information of the properties that were available. They were like big black books that they would get every week. So they could just freeze you out and not show you the information. I think having the commissions and everything listed public or within the organization, within the MLS, is transparent and is it is not exclusionary. Exclusionary? I can't say words, sorry. All right. So he also said, we will continue to focus on our mission to advocate for homeownership and always put consumer interests first. It will likely be several years before this case is finally resolved. So, guys, this is probably nothing. We're not going to see any real movement on this, but this could be groundbreaking for how real estate operates. I do want to say that I have to be careful here because I am a realtor. I think a lot of these trade organizations, their main goal really is to make the barriers of entry as difficult as possible so that they can keep the money in power. So they want to make it hard for other people to get involved. That's why you see NAR freak out about Zillow, Redfin. Anytime someone does something a little bit differently or erodes the power and control of the Association of Realtors or the multiple listing services or anything like that, they get very prickly and they want to scare all their agents and get everybody up in arms to defend the status quo. Me as an individual, I don't mind change, and I do think that there are some inefficiencies, although I do think the way realtors operate and how everything operates is not terrible. And I think that generally clients are served quite well. Could things be better? I think so. I don't know if this is going to make things better, though. This Daryl Frost, the spokesperson for Keller Williams, said that crucial evidence was not allowed to be entered and alluded to an appeal being filed. Everybody with these appeals. We are disappointed that before the jury decided this case, the court did not allow them to hear crucial evidence that cooperative compensation is permitted under Missouri law. He said in a statement following the verdict, this is not the end. Keller Williams and I want to say, like, Keller Williams is just getting beat up because they're a big name. Like, everyone operates like this right now. And so don't think Keller Williams is particularly, bad or anything like that, because I definitely don't think that's fair. Okay, they're just getting the biggest name, the biggest money. They're going to get named first. All right, Keller Williams filed the law regarding cooperative compensation and stands by the evidence presented on the 100-year-old practice of seller agents offering commissions to other agents who help market and sell homes. Looking forward, we will consider all options as we assess the verdict and trial record, including avenues of appeal. So the thing is, if they get rid of the system, which apparently is 100 years old, if your buyer's agents are just going to charge you money up front so that guarantees that they get paid, or that when you close, you will owe them a certain amount of money. I think that's the easiest solution, but that's not going to be, I mean, it's kind of good actually, because if you pay your agent, less of that funny stuff where they could be pushing you in one way or the other could happen. So I do think maybe that's a marginal improvement, but who really wants to pay the agent up front when you can just have it paid from the seller's commission? Although sellers kind of don't like that, but it's kind of paying it forward, because when you buy your first house, you're really not paying buyer commission generally under most circumstances now. So then when you sell your house, now you're paying the full commission, because you're paying for the buyer and the seller. I'm cool with some flexibility here, though. We could see more creative stuff, but we do want to be careful about strange incentive structures for agents, and we want to make sure that the goals of the client and the agent are aligned and that everyone is working for the betterment of the client. And trust me, National Association of Realtors and everybody in the real estate schools and everything, ethics is very important, and I think most agents follow that. I do think when it gets a little gray and blurry, it could be a bit problematic with, if there's a dramatic difference between the commission on one property versus another, things like that. It could get a little weird, right? So if you got a flat commission for working with a buyer, or it could be based off of the price of the property and not dependent on what the seller was offering as a commission, the buyer's agent is going to be is basically going to be unbiased, which is helpful. So I would admit that probably is a bit of an improvement, but it's marginal. I don't think this really is a huge issue right now. A spokesperson from Home Services similarly vowed to appeal the ruling in Missouri. Today's decision means that buyers will face even more obstacles. This is true in an already challenging real estate market, and sellers will have a harder time realizing the value of their homes. I don't know. That part's true. I think you're adding another cost to the buyer, essentially, is what you're doing. Now, maybe someone can come up with a creative way to solve this, but it does seem that this would negatively impact buyers. Definitely positive for sellers, I think, because they'd be paying less commission. Maybe there's less buyer agents that are incentivized, but I don't think that's a problem in this current market. The spokesperson said it could also force home buyers to forego professional help during what is likely the most complex and consequential financial transaction they'll make in their lifetime. Didn't think about that. Okay, so it's like an attorney, right? Like, say you have a legal issue but you would be allowed to handle it yourself. You would represent yourself. If you don't have money, you're kind of forced to do that, and now you're going to get worse representation. And I used to think that the normal person probably could do a real estate transaction by themselves, but no, I think you're going to hurt yourself doing that, to be honest. You aren't going to you don't know how the market is. You're not going to be able to negotiate. You're not going to know your contingencies, inspections. Like, there's a lot of stuff with a real estate transaction that is not common sense, and not something that the regular person is going to do well. So, but if they don't, but what's going to happen is they're not going to want to pay the agent. So they're going to just be contacting people trying to buy houses on their own, and they're going to get screwed. And honestly, this hurts. This can hurt minorities more. But I did want to say the point about um, not the minority point yet, but we'll go there. So just to clarify a little bit more, if you're on trial for something and you can't afford a good attorney, they give you an attorney because representing yourself is so horrible. They're not going to give you a buyer's agent for free. So now you're unrepresented and you're not going to do a good job. And I think that is going to hurt. And again, basically lower income people are going to be hurt more because the people with money can hire lawyers and do all that stuff to protect themselves. And now you're going to have to hire, a real estate agent. They're just going to go without it and be behind, right? Because if you have a lawyer, stuff gets done for you really a lot better. And so if you had a real estate agent working for you, you probably get access to properties a lot easier than if you were unrepresented. Because right now, if you're not represented, sellers agents are going to love to work with you. But now they don't represent you. It causes a whole, a different kind of problem. I actually handled a transaction where the seller was not represented and I represented the buyer. I ended up having to do all the work and make sure that the transaction got done for both sides. And it was a really strange situation because I represented only the buyer, but the seller was like violating things and not working right. And I'd have to coach them and teach them how to do the transaction, but I wasn't getting paid for it. And then the buyer could think that, you're like colluding with the seller. Meanwhile, you're just trying to help facilitate the transaction. So that's an interesting situation. Let's read some more. Okay. In a statement, Home Services said the cooperative compensation rule helps ensure millions of people realize the American dream of home ownership with the help of real estate professionals. Okay, whatever. That's propaganda. A spokesperson for Anywhere Real Estate also provided a statement noting that the company chose to settle in the case in early October without admitting wrongdoing. The jury verdict, while disappointing, does not alter our settlement, and we look forward to obtaining court approval and implementing our settlement agreement. Anywhere spokesperson said Anywhere strongly believes in the value of both buyer and seller agents to help consumers successfully navigate one of life's most expensive and impactful transactions. We remain fully committed to supporting all agents as they expertly serve their clients. And it's a breaking news story. I believe Remax and another company made a settlement. So it's interesting. I wonder what the settlement was. Like, are they going to change how I don't think probably nothing, right? But could they change their company policy for how commissions are done? And are they going to change it substantially? Like, are we going to notice, or is it just going to be like some verbiage that they write or something? I don't know.